Design challenge: bridging the information gap for newly diagnosed fibromyalgia patients. This challenge is near and dear to my heart because I've run a fibromyalgia and chronic pain support group for 9 years. The group itself is 11 years old. I started it when I had trouble finding both a doctor to treat my condition and a support group to help me find my way around a new town. Today, there are 351 members. The group is active online, but not meeting currently due to concerns regarding COVID-19. My problem is that many fibromyalgia patients feel both overwhelmed and underwhelmed at time of diagnosis. Some may start treatment right away, while others will be sent back to their primary care provider for treatment. Most people think that fibromyalgia treatment is easy to find, but the truth is that it's often very difficult. Regardless of treatment outcomes, few patients receive information about fibromyalgia from their doctor. This leads to an information gap that is often bridged online through websites or support groups. My instructional approach will start with a Google slide deck. That deck will then be downloaded and uploaded to a support group's files section within their Facebook group. This will make the training available 24/7 to support group members. I can then make a post and pin it to the top of the page with a link to the training in Google Slides directly, making it easier to find and share. I intend on including the following modules in my training: symptoms, treatment, symptom management, which is different, advocacy, and patient networking. According to Merriam, motivation is usually there for adult learners, but it's barriers to education that keep them from learning, and I have found this to be true when educating adults about fibromyalgia. Now, this all aligns with Levinson's adult development theory. Most newly diagnosed patients are in middle adulthood or midlife transition when they are diagnosed, but diagnosis can come as early as pre-adulthood. Given that it is possible to affect change in your life based on choices, and that, according to Levinson, quote, "The primary tasks of every transitional period are to reappraise the existing structure, to explore possibilities for change in the self and world, and to move towards commitment to the crucial choices that form the basis for a new life structure in the ensuing period." End quote. A diagnosis like fibromyalgia can cause great change and could trigger a transitional period within one's adult development, given that transitional periods last approximately 5 years. And finally, we have schemas and memory. Schemas can be created or updated to reflect new knowledge being integrated into your mind. Now, schemas can be formed in young childhood or they can be formed in adulthood. And I have found that when educating adults on fibromyalgia, their schemas are usually created, not updated. My instructional strategy is to provide an asynchronous slide deck with interactive components that's available 24/7. Now, this will be uploaded to the support group's Facebook group under the Files section, and I'll make a post with a link to the Google Slides and pin it to the top of the page for new members so that they can share directly from the source. The rationale behind this strategy is that a self-paced training allows the patient the flexibility they need, and the support group offers them the support and answers to more advanced questions that may arise after the training. In other words, the support is built into the training. An example of a sample exercise could be the difference between tender point identification and trigger point identification, and understanding the difference. Trigger points and tender points differ by location and definition. It may be necessary to differentiate between the two during a normal course of treatment, as it's common for fibromyalgia patients to also have trouble with trigger points, even though they're not part of the diagnostic process, unlike tender points. As you can see from these pictures, trigger points and tender points are different. Trigger points are connected to muscles. They are within the muscle, usually within the belly of the muscle, and they become knotted and painful. Whereas tender points are exactly that. They are tender and soft, and they are found elsewhere in the body, but when you put pressure on them, boy, do they hurt. Trigger points, on the other hand, you can press on all day and it might hurt if there's a knot there, but otherwise it's not going to cause pain. Another example from this training is this list of treatments. I chose the long list because I wanted to give patients the impression that there are more than a couple therapies out there, and there are. There are many therapies available to fibromyalgia patients now that weren't available 20 or 25 years ago. Some of those are FDA-approved drugs, some of them are drugs used off-label, and some of them aren't drugs at all. I've embedded links into this page to reputable web pages where patients can learn more information about each treatment. Successful implementation will look like a cycle where we start with training and solutions, move to support group discussions, which trigger more questions, which make us go back to the training or create new ones. Finally, we have assessment of the training. Now, assessment will take place in feedback in written form in discussion posts in the discussion forum for the group, formal group polls, and periodic surveys delivered through the group through a post. It is my hope that these tools will be sufficient to measure the efficacy of the training.